My daughters just went back to school. To Yesterday was Amelia's first day in high school, and so one of the things that they are so have everybody they always have to write like what I did this summer. And so I thought I might take invite you to join me on a little bit of a journal flip, um, because there are some um, there are I got into sort of a new area for me this summer, something that I really don't often do much of, and wanted to share some of the kind of urban nature journaling that I did. Um, and also for us to take a look at the strategy of um, how do you if you've got a bunch of stuff on a journal page, I do this thing called post-hoc composition where I'd like add a few other little notes and things to a nature journal page. And I find it often makes the page look like I planned it that way all along. So there can be a page that's just chaos. And then I put a few other elements on it, and I'll show you a few ways of doing that make the page feel a little bit more cohesive. It makes it easier also for me to scan. And the other advantage of doing this is because I end up looking at the page and thinking about it and remembering those experiences again. Um, it helps my brain just review those and help them stick in my brain more. There was a researcher named Ebbinghaus who looked at how just sort of periodic review of things in your notes, if you're trying to, learn something by reading or taking a class, or even from your own experience, you can review your notes, and that reinforces those memories and makes those memories stronger. So your memory is strong because, number one, in the moment you were paying attention and because you're journaling. Number two, you then have an opportunity to review those experiences when you're kind of working on those notes again. And number three, you then have this piece of paper that kind of remember this, and you're like, oh yeah, I do remember that. So let me show you a little bit of post hoc composition, and you can join me on my summer vacation. If anybody else later on, what we'll do in the show is if other people want to share journal pages, then we will be able to do that. So I want to invite you to also be able to share. Um, Hold on, I'm getting a little note here that the document camera isn't working. I'm going to try to unplug it and plug it back in. I'm going to escape, go to OBS, go to document camera. Avea, are you seeing my document camera?
I am indeed, and I'm seeing a very neat looking bug on it.
Oh, isn't that fun? Go bugs. Um, so yeah, this is sort of, starting in the middle. Um, but um, I was at a place where there was a swimming pool, and every morning I would get out and I would go clean all the traps in the pool and rescue the bugs who are floating on the water, and also take a look at the swimming pool death toll for that night. But this was one that I rescued from the pool. This cricket was about that big, and but it unfortunately had died. And so I just set it up on the table in front of me. Let's zoom down on it a little bit. I'll show you something kind of cool. With crickets in the front leg, right in here, there's this little swollen part. So you've got um, your I guess that's the femur, and this is its tibia coming out. This little swollen part right in here, that's actually its ear. Isn't that fun? Let's see if I can focus that a little bit better. Yeah. So that's a cricket ear. Um, but since this landed on this page, let me show you what post hoc composition is. Um, I went out to I went out to a beach in Greece. Um, these are and it was rather windy. Um, and but I found a little sheltered spot. I was doing some sketches, and one of the participants found that in the stuff that had washed up on the beach were these strange looking organisms. They're about this big, and they look like little, maybe California poppies, but they're only this big, and they were kind of brittle. Um, these sort of so I had no idea what these were. Um, somebody looked it up, and they said that they called them mermaids' cups. Mermaids' cups, and I think like, what on? I've never heard of a mermaid cup. I've got a little white pencil here, and I'm um, putting a little white frame around this. And what this little frame does is it's going to visually unify all this mermaid cup business. And apparently, somebody in a group looked these up, and it turns out that these little critters, these little things are single cells this big. I haven't verified that and or done any research on it myself, but I thought that that's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I put a box around these. And what that does is, as you look at this page, all these things that were kind of all over the place are now visually unified. So I'm going to write mermaid cup. Mermaid's wine glass, or was it? Maybe somebody can look this up for me. Um, let's see here.
I am seeing something called mermaid's wine glass. Yep. Um, a type of green alga. Is that correct?
I think so. Mermaid. And so what I think I'll do then is draw myself a little wine glass.
Oh, could you scooch the page over just a bit?
Oh, yeah.
Love to see what you're doing. Cool.
All right. So I'm going to have a little oval here, a little oval, a little stem, and a glass that comes up to that. And then I will put a few little white lines on that, make it hopefully look a little bit glassy. So yeah, there's a mermaid wine glass. Let me back up again. Back up. Back it up. Back it up. Back it up. Um, yeah. So there it is. I have a by putting a little frame around these little mermaid wine glasses. Could you check and see if these are single-celled?
I will check.
So this you said it's a green algae?
It seemed like that was what the web was saying. It says it's something called Acetabu Acetabularia crenulata, one of many species known as mermaid's wine glass, is a form of green alga generally found in shallow tropical seas. I'm not sure if that's the right one. No, wait, never mind. I take it back. I don't think it can be because it's saying about how it's overseas highway to Key West, Florida. So never mind what I just said.
Hmm. But so sometimes when you're kind of doing this and you're kind of doing a post-hoc composition, it makes you want to kind of learn more about these things. But I find this approach to kind of boxing things or selecting things like this is a great way to get myself to observe things a little bit more carefully. Um, now, Vea, are you seeing that the camera is a little bit more pixelated than usual?
Just a bit, yeah. It's hard to read individual words. Are other
Hmm.
folks noticing that too? I'm looking to see if folks are nodding. Um, just a little bit, yeah.
I'm going to see if I can um, increase the resolution.
That looks much sharper.
That's much better. Okay, great. Um, oh yeah, I just popped back here. So there we go. So let's kind of start at the start. Um, this was a little map I made because being an American, my geography is terrible. And so what I do is I make myself I'll sit down with a map and I'll kind of carefully sketch out the shape of the seas and then try to and place countries around. And then as I'm kind of going about things and I will add things onto those pages. And so I find that this helps me just get a little bit more geographically literate. Um, and otherwise, I find, and I also find that doing this just sort of helps me kind of land myself in place. If you are doing something like this, a map like this can be kind of confusing. Sometimes all you need to make it make a little bit more sense is some little indication like that is water, right? A little black, a squiggly black line can be confusing, but the minute I do this, look at how much easier that is to read, right? It just takes a moment to kind of make that kind of pop a little bit more. Similarly, over here on the side, I'm going to just squiggle right down here. And all of a sudden, that little black line makes a lot more sense. I'll fill that in there. All right. So then this is an enlargement of this. I then realized I needed more room on my map, so I kind of bopped down here. I guess that's one of the advantages of doing things in pencil. So that was sort of kind of a placeholder. I started off in Boston and sort of was going around the town trying to kind of learn as much as I could about Boston history. And so I followed people around on a little walking tour of the city. And as we were walking, I was trying to kind of take as many notes as I could. When I was doing that, a I was just drawing everything in pen. But as you'll see in a lot of pages in this journal, I was using I'll grab my kind of I used a kind of a gray marker pen, sort of a light gray marker, and found I could quickly sketch something out, throw a little bit of that gray marker on it, and the drawing felt a lot more kind of fleshed out. So it just took a few seconds to use the gray marker. I could also use it for you kind of see little frames around these or kind of boxing in this Boston Massacre thing. But that little gray marker really helped me be able to um, get my notes down quickly. Um, so here's kind of a fun phenomenon. Um, the there was a little spinning merry-go-round toy, and I got my daughters to sit on it and toss a ball back and forth between them. And first we predicted what they thought would happen if they were tossing a ball back and forth as this little merry-go-round thing was spinning around. And then we tried to figure out why the as we would spin this way, if you tried to throw the ball, it would be deflected, and um, that um, uh, And so this was kind of fun. So here's just a little bit of physics diagramming. So again, this isn't my usual thing. I'm not usually doing like, Boston Massacre, old Ironsides, and here a little merry-go-round toy. But really, we can journal about anything, and putting those notes into this journal really helped me kind of slow down and be able to think about this more deeply. Was there for Juneteenth, and it was very interesting to see a lot of places in Boston that were kind of involved with the Underground Railroad. And I also spent some time in a science museum where here's a beautiful skeleton of the extinct moa that used to be in New Zealand. And this is life-size pterosaur. So that's a life-size flying reptile that was around at the age of the dinosaurs. So it is, my hand is bigger than it. I've always seen those things as sort of giant creatures, but here it was this tiny little sparrow-sized things. I didn't know that pterosaurs came in sparrow sizes. That was really fun for me. Um, my approach here, if you look at this page, is I am blocking things in with a light purple pencil. If you see this purple pencil in the background, that's how this sketch started. And that gave me the right basic shape. And then I could come over that. I was just using a ballpoint pen. I think I was using a Bic round stick here just to draw in the rest of those lines. But I like to sort of, if I start with the head and then start working my way down, the thing will end up like having legs that are too long or legs that are too short. So I often make a little quick sketch first that allows me to block that in. Mary is mentioning that at Harvard there is this glass flower exhibit, and I had a chance to visit that. It was amazing, and Avea, I thought of you while I was there. This was also at Harvard's museum. This was one of my favorite Ice Age critters. Is this sort of armadillo-looking thing called a glyptodon, and it is about as high as your chest. But on this, let's take a look just at what kind of nature journaling strategies I was using. Um, so here's a sketch of the whole thing, right? And its back has all of these little armor plates on it. And so um, those, if you zoom in life size, have have all these sort of small circles within them. So there are these big plates that then have these little kind of small um, small flat pieces fit into square plates. Notice that I'm not drawing them all over the whole body. I've got a few in here. I've got some in here, but what I'm doing is just sort of, I'm showing how these things are distributed. I'm then showing a zoom in on this. So I often use this little symbol here. I'll draw a little circle, I'll connect it, and then have a bigger circle. And that shows kind of zoom ins. Um, Here's the same sort of a thing, but this time with a square. So here on the tail, one of these little plates out here, that zooming in is has these strange little circles on it. So rather than have to draw that all over the entire thing and then partway through I get sick of drawing those and they start to get sloppy, I'll just zoom in on one little part and say like, yeah, these are these are kind of covered with these patterns. And then ones these little plates on the tail here had these little strange circular patterns in here. You can also see here kind of the bang that I'm getting for having that gray pencil. Right? So just a little bit of gray pencil gives an incredible pop. And then I went with Wild Wonder over to Hog Island. We had a um, a field trip to Hog Island, which is an Audubon camp. And I arrived and heard that there was a pitcher plant bog and went down this little trail and fed a swarm of mosquitoes. I learned very quickly to put mosquito repellent on. But this is life-size sketches of this. It's different than the pitcher plant that I'm familiar with in the Sierra Nevada. Um, I think that this might be actually a really good place to show you just how easy it is to use this gray marker. Check this one out. This is called a brushables, and it's a gray marker that has a marker that is lighter and a little bit darker on either end. And um, you can have a little line drawing like this and just think to yourself like, okay, I want to sort of show the volume in this. Um, I'm going to add a little bit. If the light is coming here, this part here was bolded down. And then the light would be shining from that other side so that this part here would be in shadow. See, this is a very ghosty little gray. And if I want that to be a little bit darker, then it becomes a little bit more clear that, okay, I've got a shadow on this side. This marker is close to dead, so what's fun about using a marker like this is you get a lot of pop for very little effort. So just like that, I have a feeling of some depth on the page which wasn't there just a few seconds ago. Um, so I like these. So these pens called brushables have these two ones. Another brushable that I really like, I've got this one. What is it? It is this one has a strange name. It's this light purple one. Where do they have the name on it? Where's your name? Don't see your name. But I might do some little sketches with this purple one. I like sort of light purple as a color. Um, but yeah, you might want to kind of consider that um, in your skill set. So here, these were maps that they had of Hog Island at the Audubon camp, and I just glued those into my journal. And then the same thing, painted with watercolor instead of that little pencil, just so you can see the difference between the ground and the water, and that made that kind of pop. So it was a really interesting spot. These are birds that were there early in the morning, and um, just remember when I was talking about kind of how sometimes a little frame makes something feel a lot less chaotic. You know, here's a page that has um, all these bird sketches on it. But if I just take, say, a yellow colored pencil here, and I'm going to, on this American goldfinch, I'm going to give it a little bounding box, and that crested flycatcher, great crested flycatcher's tail can pop into it if it wants to. That's okay. That does a lot to almost make it look like I had planned all along for this to be sort of the structure of that page. Since I'm here, why not just throw in a little bit more yellow with that pencil? I could do the same thing up here with this little character, a little song sparrow. But I think I'm going to give it a brown box. And this is actually song sparrow songs that are out here. So all of this is song sparrow. All right. And so what I will do is have my box come down here. There we go. So this one I knew it was a song sparrow, but then um, there were all of these mystery birds, birds I did not know. And so here's my mystery birds and their song. So I've got this one here. We've got the CCC Podit, CCC Podit, and the Tia 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 Zidada or ZD at the end. Or this one did a trill. Z, Z. And this one here I was able to find, right? So this little birdie here who does this little trill, Z, is the northern parula. Um, so if I'm able to kind of identify, I can first when I hear a song, I kind of make my own little jiggles to be whatever they are saying. And then I can um, if I identify them, then I know it. I like this approach so much better than just say right now it's really tempting just to use Merlin. And we've got this, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there's an app called Merlin. It's free. You turn it on, it'll listen to all the birds that are singing in your area and identify them for you. If you don't have it, it's amazing. But sometimes it's neat just to let the mystery be and not Merlin the birds, but to just write them out as your mystery birds. Because then when you do discover what it is, it's got so much more kind of resonance and meaning for you. Um, one of the participants on this trip is a wonderful nature journaler named Akshay, and Akshay is a really avid entomologist, amateur mother, now becoming professional mother. And he set up these sheets for us at night so that we could find moths in the morning. And look at this beautiful one. This was the rosy maple. He was just beside himself when he saw that beautiful, beautiful moth. So every morning at Hog Island, we would have a chance um, to see what moths um, Akshay had brought in. So on these, there is so here's the drawing of the moth from the side and the top. A couple of different versions of it. This one had more rows on it. This little line here shows me the life size of it. So this line saying like this little critter here, it's actually this big. So I'm including a little bit of scale in that. This little one here is this big. This little one here is this big. This one here is this big, right? So this one, I'm drawing it from the side and the top view, and it's this big. This one was life size. And then here are a few little landscapitos. If you notice, I am using brown paper, and the sky here, or the water here, is lighter than the paper. Um, And also, you'll notice that this sort of light blue in the sky here, if I was just using regular watercolor, the brown of this paper would show through into that sky. So in these cases, what I'm doing is, I have a little kit of, um, oops, that's not it. I'm using a little kit of gouache paint. Gouache paint is a it works like watercolor, right? So it works just like regular watercolor, but it is more opaque. And so let me just on this one here do a little demo. I'm going to just use the colors from around here to kind of help me kind of get this. Well, actually, maybe I'll keep this one. I kind of like this. This one here is colored in just with a marker. So I had a couple of Tombow markers, and I had a little line drawing, and then used the darker one on the closer trees, a lighter one on that distant hill. And it really does a good job of showing the values in this little sketch. Um, why don't we put some color on this just for funsies? Um, but check this out. If I were just using regular watercolor, actually, maybe I'll start with regular watercolor and show you the problem with it. I would say like, oh, I want this sky to be bluish, right? And I put that blue on there. See how it looks kind of yellow? That's that yellow page showing through. That's because the watercolor is transparent. And so, um, womp, womp, womp. What do you do about that? Well, you could just use it, leave it as I had before with a this as a little pen drawing. That reads okay. But if you're using gouache, um, gouache is opaque. So what I do is I just like with watercolor, I wet this and with this gouache, it I'm gonna try to work it into all those little crevices there. I don't have to worry about this sort of making lines the same way that watercolor does, so I can actually paint with this in a different way than I would with watercolor. There we go. Um, and then look at this. This is fun. Um, I can then take some white gouache and mix it in with that. Gouache, even if it dries, if you put water or something on top of it, it re-wets, it reactivates, and you can move it around again. And then you say like, oh no, you've got too harsh a line there. With watercolor, that could be a problem. With gouache, I just kind of go like, not anymore. Pick some of that up. Just mix it up there. Isn't that cool? So it's, and you can combine that with watercolor. So if I want some of the sky in the higher part to be more of a blue, I just take some regular watercolor and I'm going to throw that into there. Maybe get that a little bit darker. And looks like this water is fairly similar color as the sky. Because I put it over that little shadow area or that reflection, then it's kind of starting to cover that up. If I did it more thickly, that would disappear even more. But an interesting thing to know about gouache is that as it dries, um, it becomes more transparent, so you can see through it more. Like look at this. If I so just put some of this over here, that looks like it's covering fairly well, right? Just watch that dry. Watch. I'll just put some of this on here, and just watch as this dries. Um, you're going to see that tree come back in probably a minute. And when I first started working with gouache, this drove me nuts. I didn't like it, but now I think of it as a feature, right? So I can put something down and then it'll kind of fade. Let's get a little bit of green into those trees. I'm going to use just regular watercolor for that.
So we have a question about what color of blue is that gouache?
Okay, so this blue is my new little favorite color of gouache blue. And what is the name of it? And is it possible for somebody to go to johnmuirlaws.com and do a little search for me? We can get the name of that. Um, has a strange name, but I find it is a very, very useful color. Actually,
Is it the Myosotis one? The
yes,
forget-me-not?
yes, that's it. That's it. Myosotis blue. Yeah, I think it's called Myosotis blue. I love it. I think it's a Holbein color. I think that's by Holbein. Um, I now want to get this reflection to be a little bit darker. So again, I'm going to use some watercolor. Reflections are always directly below the thing that is casting them, right? So if this tree is casting a reflection, if this tree is casting a reflection, its reflection will be below it. All right, that's kind of fun. So you can see how you can use um, the the gouache on toned paper. And because this was a summer with the toned paper sketchbook, I found myself really relying on that a lot. Um, so I found myself regularly going um, and playing with that. Yeah, little. It was okay as a pen study. I also like this too. Oh, remember this one that we were able to figure out? This one Trilzy, Trilzy. Here's Trilzy. Look at this one. Here's Trilzy. Isn't that a crazy looking bird? Wow. Yeah, so that one finally came down out of the bush and out of the treetops. But it was spending most of its time way up where I couldn't see it. But finally came down and I got a really good look at it. Really, really beautiful, beautiful little bird. This one here, you see how kind of that little white frame also does a lot to on this hold that together. Visually, without that, this page would be a lot more confusing. Here's another moth night. And we got to talk puffins. So, the people at Hog Island had done this uh, a um, a project where they had reintroduced puffins onto these islands. Now, puffins are really clever, and they are not going to go where there are no other puffins because that might be a bad. If there are no puffins on a rock, then it might be bad for puffins. But there was a big rock outcrop that used to have puffins, but egg hunters killed all the puffins on these islands, and so the puffins left and never came back. But they tried just reintroducing some puffins onto this island. But then, in order to get the puffins to kind of go like, no, this is a really good place, what they did is they made wooden decoys of the puffins, wooden puffin decoys, and and then played puffin sounds to make the puffin feel the island feel occupied. Um, this is also a kind of a good example of a place why drawing on white toned paper is really satisfying because every time I got to take some white paint or a white pencil and put in these little puffin whites, oh, it felt so good. It's so much fun to do that. You also here see this having this orange line here. What I usually do with my colors is I'll take some color of some object. So like for instance here, this is pink. So this little cloud combining all the moths is pink, right? These puffins have orange in their beaks and orange in their feet. So I use that orange to draw some boxes around the puffins, and that kind of unifies all those puffins. Look at how these puffins over here feel like they're kind of part of a puffin club. There sort of feels like there's structure on the page. These ones over here, it feels like there's just a lot of different drawings. That's the power of that little box. But at Hog Island, they take a boat out and you can watch the puffins on the island from the boat. And puffins have just adorable little footers as they go flying around, their little feet dangling around. On a birds in flight where the wings just flap really, really fast, this is a great strategy to use. You just make yourself a little vertical squiggle in that wing zone, and then that feels like flapping wings because the wing is actually moving so fast that you can't see it in the down position, in the up position. You can see that in a photograph, but when you're looking at the real bird, you just see that. So this is also drawing what you're seeing. Let's see. Here's just you know with anytime you feel overwhelmed by a landscape, just do it in with simple values. So here's just a grayscale watercolor of some of the landscape out there. This is another fun thing to do if you have a big landscape and painting that whole thing feels daunting. what I did here is I just picked a little box in here and a little box in here and got the colors of the sky and the water and the colors of the sky, the water, and the rocks. And that's enough to really help me remember um, the colors of a place. That's a fun strategy to use. Um, Here is going back to the Puffin Rocks. And again, more puffins, 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 puffins. Wow, what fun birds. And just to, again, to emphasize how much fun toned paper is, look, let me, I'm going to get a dopamine hit on the page here, right? So here's a few puffins, and they're having a little puffin party out there. I'm just gonna get some black. If I was using regular paper, I would paint in the black. The contrast of those birds was great. We're going around the islands, what I would do is I would just have a bunch of different drawings going at the same time. And the little ones like this, it doesn't really feel like a puffin because it's got its head tucked in. But I was just trying to take this approach of believe the puffin, trust the puffin. And, thinking of the them not so much as puffins, but as just sort of these strange little abstract shapes. And so here is some puffin dark. But if you're using toned paper, this is here's this incredibly satisfying thing that you can do. I clean my brush. On my little palette, I also have some extra gouache right here. So this is a big pad of gouache. If I don't have the little gouache palette with me, I just have this big wad of white gouache. And I can, for instance, if I wanted pink gouache, I could take some white gouache and mix it with a little bit of magenta paint and make pink gouache. But sometimes you just want white gouache. So I'm just going to go in here and mix up this little batch of white, kind of creamy texture. Not adding a lot of water in here, but imagine that the light is coming from this direction. It's going to hit the chest here, and then that lower chest will probably be in the shade. It is so fun to put on these whites. And look at that pop. You put in that white, pop. It is really fun to do that. And then this one has a little white by the side of its head. Adding the whites on toned paper is addictive. Once you start kind of playing with that, you're going to be it's it is hard to stop. Just a few other things I wanted to point out. A few things I'm doing in this sketch. Sometimes when I'm filling up a large area, what I'll sometimes do on if I've just got my pen, I get my hand going like this and I make a whole bunch of parallel lines, and it just sort of feels like here's a monotone of something. So you see the same thing here. Just parallel lines closer together gives you this feeling of here's here's the dark of my critter. Another thing that you can do though with your lines is you can sort of use them to suggest different patches of feathers. So if there's some feathers kind of in a pile on the back, the scapulars and things, I can hit that with lines in one direction. Just change the direction a little bit coming in here for these other feathers. And notice how those changes in the angle of those feathers, you kind of see these as clumps of feathers because of that. So you can decide to yourself to do either kind of, I'm going to suggest just darkness with these hatching, or sometimes you can change your pen angle and you can actually think of sort of carving this bird. And East Coast warblers, this white part was really fun to do. This is a bird that's hiding in the treetops, finally came down. Oh, and look at what Akshay found. This is life size. Hmm. Really, really fun. On their last night, they had lobster for everybody, Maine lobster. My daughters and I didn't have any because my daughters wanted to save the lobsters. Um, and they also made these little puffin um, these little kind of these cream-filled puffins for everybody. It's really, really fun. Um, but that is kind of a quick look at my adventure on Hog Island. Oh, look at this. So again, the gray pen, just that little bit of gray pen. Look at how much it does. So it's the water, it's the shadows on the building. This lighthouse without it is just womp womp. But with that, pow, you've got so much more volume and dimension in one of these little sketches. Um, so that is a little bit on how to kind of how to play with um, your some sketches after the fact, a little bit of the my Hog Island experience. Oh, you know what I want to do now? Are you dry? Yeah, this one is dry. I want to. I'm going to get a white Prismacolor pencil, and I'm just going to put a few little sparkles on the water here. I'm going to put some bigger sparkles close to me, and maybe some smaller ones further out, just because it's fun to do. That was again, white pencil or gouache on tone paper is so satisfying. Um, in a subsequent workshop, what we'll do is we'll kind of use some of these same techniques. I'm going to walk you through sort of some of the other adventures that we had um, in um, in uh, as I was kind of exploring with my family and teaching classes. Um, but we'll save those for another day. Again, just to review here, today we've got having just a mid-tone gray pen gives you really, really quick value that is extremely satisfying. Um, a idea number two is if you're making maps, just a little bit of tone out there to separate water from non-water goes a very, very long way. Here, kind of going a little bit crazy with it, but goes a long way. These little frames to block things together can help us be able to um, make that page read a little bit more easily. It's kind of visually chunking these, and also just notice that it does tie these very strongly in with this song sparrow language over here. This song sparrow, by the way, partway while I was watching it, changed the song that it was singing from this one to this one. So maybe I ought to make a little note about that because that's kind of cool. I'll just write in here. Where did my pen go? Pen, pen, wherefore art thou? Oh, there you are. Just some again, this is what I call show and tell. I could just have myself notice this, but if I write changed songs, exclamation point, um, that is um, that's going to help me sort of highlight something that I learned while watching the bird. Um, we looked a little bit at that the portable gouache, the idea of putting actual sizes in with things that are larger. Here's using a cloud, the pink cloud again, to hold something together. I am picking up a color that would be included in there. So orange in the feet to make those boxes, and then that visually unifies those. Um, and then with a landscape, you don't have to paint the whole thing. You can grab little nuggets. Gouache is extremely satisfying. And um, then again, we've got that little gray pen, and those are um, that is really fun. So now I'm going to bounce back. Hold on a second. I am going to come back here. Hi. Um, let's see. Yeah. Um, I what I'd love to do is to um, find out if anybody has any comments or questions about the stuff that I just did. Then it would also be really fun to take a look at some of your journals or adventures. If there's anything that you would like to show from your journals, then we can do that together. So if you would like to share something, I want to encourage you to use the raise hand function. Um,
Oh, chat.
Either to show something from your journal, or what you can also do is um, just turn on your camera and start waving at us, and we might be able to see
Oh,
that
chat.
you've got something to share.
Oh, there was a question in the chat. Sorry, before
Oh,
we begin with the sharing. Folks were wondering what kind of journal you were using. Somebody was wondering if you were using a Stillman and Byrne Alpha series, hardbound. So we had questions about your journal and also the lovely tint of the pages.
yeah. So this is a Strathmore toned paper sketchbook, and they come in gray and brown. In the past, I'd used gray a lot. And let me grab a gray one. But I decided what would happen if I had a brown paper. Um, Something that I like about the gray is that, hold on a sec. Um, so this is on gray paper. This is on brown paper. Right? These are both Strathmore sketchbooks. Um, and um, the there's I think that maybe just a little bit more warmth in the brown. Um, but sometimes the gray, for instance, here, big old foggy day, um, is that does give you um there's something nice about sort of how neutral the gray is. Um, so gray, I've done a lot. These are both Strathmore sketchbooks. This is the gray one. This is the brown one. Um, I'd been using these for a while. I decided just to make myself do something differently to go with the brown. Um, After having used the brown all summer, I'm now really liking the brown. And I was at the start, I was thinking like I got to go back to a gray one. I wish I brought another gray one, but then I used this all summer, and then the brown just made me happy. And so I yeah, it's a Strathmore sketchbook. Was there another question?
Yes. Another question was, does the paper buckle when you use the gouache?
Yeah. So paper, if you look at the side of the sketchbook, the paper buckles. So it's not like it with the Stillman and Brin sketchbooks that have a lot heavier paper. You don't get as much of the buckling. Then you also don't get as many pages for a sketchbook. Um, I My way of kind of dealing with that is I've come to embrace the kind of the wonky awkwardness of a journal that has a lot um, of of wobble in it. So I actually kind of like it when the pages are doing that a little bit. Also, the watercolor stuff that I'm doing, I'm not usually doing a lot of water on a page and working that for a long time because I'm doing more of a nature journaling approach. I'm going to put a quick application of watercolor down and then I'm probably moving on to the next thing. If I were really working that as a watercolor with lots of layers and lots of water, it would get um, I'm gonna beat through the that page pretty quickly. Um, but because this is kind of quick application and then go instead of lots and lots of layers, and also I'm not doing a lot of wet and wet work, um, it is I can handle the wobble on the page. But yeah, these pages do want to do that. But I kind of I think it's fun sometimes. Let me see if I can find a really thick notebook. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I do like the feeling of a used sketchbook that's got a little bit of thickness to it. It's kind of starting to like, look, I'm really full. I've got all sorts of adventures in me. So I know that some people really don't like that, in which case go for a heavier weight paper. Um, Also, if you like doing things where you're going to really work that watercolor more, lots of layers or using a lot of wet and wet, you're probably going to want a heavier paper. In which case, like the Stillman and Brin sketchbooks, they've got lots of really good stuff. Were there any other questions?
Those were the ones I saw. Hopefully, I haven't missed anybody. Thank you.
Okay. If other people have other questions, please drop them into the chat, or if we missed it, please feel free to stick it in a second time. It doesn't mean that we're ignoring that question. It's that we just didn't catch it. Um, would anybody like to share some sketches from their journal or journal entries, things that you've been looking at? If so, just feel free to use the raise hand function. And while we're doing that, what I'd love to do, while we're seeing if anybody would like to do that, let's encourage people to into the chat. Let's drop a bunch of ideas and suggestions of topics that you would like to see for Nature Journal workshops. What are either subject matter or media um, and or strategies or things that you find challenging about the general process. Let's drop some of those into the chat and Avea and I will kind of scavenge those to create all sorts of fun topics. Yes, Avea,
So a couple more questions came up, and also if nobody else wants to share, I can share a couple things for
I
myself.
would love that.
So a couple other questions that came up. If you're on a water adventure, are you putting your materials in a dry bag? Do you always dock, or can you take it out while on the paddleboard? Is one question. And then another question is, what was the name of the white brush pen you were using? And I see Susan's hand.
All right. So on so for paddleboards and kayaks are really, really wet environments. Um, and so for those, a dry bag is really useful. Um, I used a dry bag when I was doing a bunch of tide pooling recently in the Sea of Cortez. And so when I would be kind of bopping around things, I had a little bag, and so because eventually I'm going to drop my nature journal into the ocean. Um, on these boats, this was a big sort of fishing vessel size thing, and so I didn't have to worry about things kind of splashing on that. Um, but for really wet environments. A group of us are going to be, for instance, going to the Galapagos Islands next year, and for that, there'll be some times that it's useful just to take your stuff, chuck it into a dry bag, and then then sort of bring it out when things might be a little bit safer. Susan, it is good to see you. Susan and I recently got to play in the Sierra Nevada together. We were both at the Sierra Nevada Wild Wonder Retreat. So much fun to see you there. And how are you feeling
Great.
today?
Great. But I was going to say, Eveus first, though. You don't get away with this whole waiting, going after me. I
Oh,
specifically waited until after you volunteered, Evea.
It's okay though, but you guys are already on the screen. I'll go
Uh,
after you. Go ahead, Susan.
hey, all right, all right. Yeah, oh, it was fantastic. I came back with so much inspiration, and it's been very exciting. And now I'm about to go up to Colorado, and I just realized I only have a few pages left in my journal, so I'm gonna fill them all up and see if I can start another one. Be great. But yeah, but so I thought maybe I would actually share something from not from that trip, but from earlier this summer,
great.
if you're interested. So
I'm going to make my screen small, which will make your screen big.
yeah,
And we'd love to see what you are have been up to.
sure.
For folks who haven't met Susan yet, Susan is a mathematician, nature journaler, um, uh, sort of dabbler in everything. And
I didn't notice
it's
your shirt, by the way.
what?
Don't think I didn't notice your shirt.
Ah, yeah,
Bye.
there you go. Um, so there you go. Now you're big.
Okay, excellent.
Um, and we'd love to see what's happening in your journal.
So this actually starts with a page from a few years ago, um, because so you guys, many of you know, I like to talk at length and ad nauseum about the Albany Pine Bush Preserve, which is this wonderful, wonderful place that we have here in Albany that we try very hard to preserve. And it's a very unique ecosystem, and it is a very fire dependent ecosystem, and so they do prescribed burns, and it's has a lot of management challenges and things, and it's had a lot of history over the years to get protected. And I do some community science volunteering stuff there, and one of the things I do is buck moth surveys in the fall. So we have these giant silk moths. They're actually about the same size as the rosy maple moths. Um, and very similar. I think of them as the rosy maple moth cousin, the sort of the goth cousin of them.
The
Uh,
goth cousin of
yeah,
the
they look
rosy
the same
maple.
shape, but they're very gothy. They're very Halloween,
Okay,
and they
I
come out
gotta
of
see
the
this.
yeah. So they and this is the inland barrens buck moth, which is endangered, and we try to preserve them. So we do monitoring. We count them in October when the adults are flying, and they fly during the day. So for the last few years, there's a so this is on like an area of sand dunes now. upstate New York, you don't think of as a place full of sand dunes, but there are sand dunes in this area. Um, won't go into all the details of the history of that, but that's what makes it a unique ecosystem. And so the buck moths do hilltopping, which means they fly round and round and round the top of the tallest hill they can find to, like, guard their territory, look for mates and stuff. So to do the surveying, I have to climb up to the top of the dune and then count them as they fly around. So a few years ago, I was doing that, and I was doing some sketches here. And so I did a little
Ooh.
sketch of the view from the top of the dune. And you can see there's a whole lot of, this is off the trail, so I have to like kind of bushwhack my way through a bunch of scrub oaks and stuff. And there's a bunch of pitch pine trees here. And all the rest of this is full of like thick scrub oaks and all kinds of sort of bushy, plants and things. And it's quite difficult. And then the view has actually gotten pretty obstructed over time. So that's the view. This is a picture that this is
Oh.
what I got to climb up to from the trail. So I got to kind of go over a dune, over some more dune, pushing through all these oaks. And every year it gets harder because they grow bigger. And
Hmm.
they're not
Hmm.
trees, they're bushes, but they're pretty bushy.
This
Um,
is a great use of the block diagram.
oh,
It
I was
really,
I was very pleased when I thought to do that. Yeah, because then I could really show that it's like over a dune, then another dune.
yeah.
And again, full of oaks. And here's the buck moths. This was
Oh,
yeah,
look at
that was
them. I see why you say the
yeah,
goth cousins.
yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah, they're
and are
very
those their
slow to eat.
antennae that they've got swooped out to the sides there?
Yeah, sometimes they hold them out. But this were two males. This one it kind of hid the antenna kind of in the sort of
Yeah.
tucked in, but then took the antenna out later on. So yeah, and they've got these cool like thingies. I always think of like if they were. I learned when we were learning like bird feather groups from you, and we learned about the scapular feathers, and I
Yeah.
always think of these as the scapulars. They just have like these really good tufts there that are right where the scapulars would be. So yeah, very good moths, very nice. They
Oh,
fly to
but before you go on, I just
uh,
sort of hold that back up one more time. That little landscape of the stuff in the distance. There's something that Susan is doing that you kind of look like, oh my gosh, it looks like this distant forest. I'm guessing that what you did is you first put down sort of a coat of kind of a lighter base color, and then are painting the shadows inside each of those trees. Uh,
yeah. And I think
uh,
I did some pen outline, and yeah, I just kind of mushed on some green and some little bit of red, a little bit of orange because it was kind of turning to fall colors. And
yeah,
then yeah, I got the little shadow inside because also the sun was over here basically. It was like up here, but it's shining into my
yep,
eyes
yep. So
every
each one
time
of
it's
those
backlit.
is backlit.
Which I will tell you, it's hard to see the moths when they're backlit, but I was required to face in that direction, so I had no choice. um, but yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, I want to kind of picture in your head like this area. It's got all these pitch pines here, but they're pretty spread out, and the rest of these dunes covered in plants, especially these thick scrub oak bushes everywhere. There's also lupins that grow up underneath there. Now, at this time in the fall, there you couldn't really see any of the lupins, and also the bushes are so thick that the lupins don't really have a whole lot of space to grow, which is
Okay.
significant because the main reason that this preserve is a preserve originally was to protect the habitat of the Carner blue butterfly, which only lays its eggs on this one specific species of lupin, the wild blue lupin that grows in this area. And only really grows in this very specific kind of habitat and needs a lot of light. And so most of our kind of wild or sort of turning back to wild areas in New York they get forested very fast. Lupins cannot grow in that kind of situation. And so they need the prescribed burns that we do, or
Hmm.
originally
Hmm.
just wildfires, to keep the space open and clear and have enough light coming down to the ground for the lupins to grow. Otherwise, the cardinal blue butterflies can't
Yeah.
lay their eggs, and it's a whole thing, right? So, um, so fast forward to earlier this year to June. I decide, oh, I haven't been over to that particular part of the trail in a while since like last year. Let me go over there and see what it looks like. And I get over there, and boom,
Oh,
they've
freshly
they've
burned.
mowed it and burned it. So they didn't just burn; they actually cut. I didn't really show a close up. They've actually cut like all of those bushes down to there's little stumps of them down to the ground. They mowed everything.
Oh.
And then they burned it, like, I actually found out like a week before I got there.
Mm-hmm.
It was burned, and it was just like charcoal. And I'm now all excited because at the Sierra retreat we saw Robin Lee Carlson, and she did a lot of talking about the Cold Canyon Fire journals and her experiences documenting fire, and it's got me really excited and inspired again to look at this, because what's cool for me is we don't have bad wildfires out here, but I do get the chance to look at and explore how my preserve changes and grows when they do prescribed burns, and the effect that that has. And then that's much, much less intense than a really bad wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
And in
Mm-hmm.
this case, it's really less intense because you can look, and already, this was a week later, there were grasses that were sprouting. There was all kinds of stuff. The stumps of all the oak bushes were already starting to sprout a little bit.
Mm.
Um, but it was really down to the ground. So this was actually, I'm like kind of excited about doing the muck moth surveys this year, because this is the first year I'll probably just be able to stroll over there without a problem. No ticks or anything. I'll just be able to get right over there.
Yes.
Um, Now, actually, I haven't actually been back here later in the summer to see, but I suspect it's already gotten, like, at least the grasses have come up pretty thick. Um, so it may still actually be pretty well grown in, because it's amazing how fast it grows. The pitch pines also are very cool because they're fire dependent, and they have epicormic sprouts, and so their trunks will actually respond to fire, and they'll sprout these little tufts of needles
Hmm.
out of them.
Out of the trunks.
Yes, yeah, and I actually saw, and I on a different trail where they'd also done a dry burn, there was a really cool spot that I saw where I could see this sort of like charred and browned old epicormic sprout that had sprouted there sometime previously, but now it was all browned because they'd reburned that area. And then there was just these brand new teensy weensy little tiny little
Aw.
green epicormic sprouts coming out at the same place, and it was really neat. So it's very cool. But this was the coolest thing. So I did actually climb up here because I figured, like, wow, this is my chance to get up there so easily. And I did climb up the dunes, and I got up there, and it was like nothing in my way. It was great. So while I'm up there, I'm seeing, like I said, the scrub oaks have gotten so thick that the lupins that are technically growing all over this slope barely come up, and they can barely be seen because the scrub oaks are so thick. And this is one of the reasons why they do the mowing. They actually, I asked them about it later. They said that the whole schedule got like out of whack in 2020 because they weren't able to actually go do it. So this area had been due for a burn a couple of years before, and had gotten so thick they don't usually want to mow this area, but they had to mow it because it had gotten so thick. And then they burned. So, but the lupins were like, you could barely ever see them. There's hardly any of them there. Well, they're there, and I have a feeling that next spring it's going to be absolutely amazing. The whole hillside's going to be purple with them. I think it's going to be great. And I'm going to document that. It'll be great. But there's all these little kind of like sad little brown, dried up little clumps where the lupins that did grow have all dried up because of the fire, because they
Yeah.
burned right during like the peak lupin season. Bearing in mind, this is also the peak season when the Carner blues are flying. The adults are flying, and they're laying their eggs for the first of their 2 generations in the summer. So when you burn this area, you're killing the Carner blue butterflies, little tiny butterflies that are in that particular area. And
Hmm.
Carner blues do not fly very far, and they only live about 3 to 5 days as adults, and they don't fly very far in that whole time. They're very small, they're very weak flyers. So, it's kind of a testament to like the management of this area. They've been able to get to the point where you've got enough population that they can move in and refill the burned
Oh,
area,
that's really cool.
and they fill. So this was the cool part. So I get up here, and I wrote this. I didn't draw pictures, but I wrote it down. Get up there, and I see a female Carner blue butterfly fluttering around, like right in the middle of this charred area. I don't know how far she had to fly to get to this spot, but it was pretty far. And she's fluttering around, and she's kind of sniffing around one of these like charred, dead-looking lupins. And she's fluttering around. She's fluttering around, and I could see her. The males are very bright blue when they open their wings, and the females are kind of more bluey brown. So I could tell it was female. So she comes, and she's fluttering around, and she keeps sort of stopping on the lupin leaf. These like, again, like brown, dried up lupin leaves and stems. And I get out my binoculars, and I look, and she's dipping her abdomen on the leaves,
Laying eggs?
laying eggs. Yeah. So the thing is, so first of all, that's really interesting because that means that like like dead, dried up lupins apparently smell enough like lupins to be attractive to a
Oh, interesting. I wonder if that's a
and
sink.
yeah. And so I actually talked to some folks at the preserve. I talked to the guy who's like the main ecologist and also manages the prescribed burns. And I was asking about it, and he said, yeah, like he looked at some photos. He says, yeah, she is laying eggs. And we both agreed basically by the time these eggs hatch, first of all, the lupins are so robust. They're slightly succulent. They got great root systems. These fires are very shallow. They don't touch, they don't hit go underground at all. The lupins were already resprouting, and they'll probably even have a bloom, which has now missed, but they probably had a bloom later than normal because they would just have resprouted and everything. So by the time the second generation of Carter Blues was like ready to hatch, there was fresh lupin leaves for them
Oh,
if they just
that's
crawled
really
away
cool.
along the stem. And so almost certainly those eggs that she laid will have had food to eat and they will have lived and already are repopulating. So
Cool
that was
little
just like
little
super cool.
blues.
Yeah. So makes me happy. Yay, little Carter Blues surviving your burns and being so great. So yeah.
Oh,
That
that's
was
really fun.
my good thing for the day. Yeah. So,
Thank you so much for sharing that.
hmm. So welcome.
I thought it might be useful just to do a quick little demonstration because that view of those distant trees that you did. Um, I'm going to grab a little pad of paper here.
Also, I'm realizing this is one of the few times I've managed to succeed in the keep it simple, stupid thing. Because I
Succeed
know
in the what?
with landscapes, I always end up like trying to get like too much detail and make it too perfect, and then I drive myself crazy. And sometimes I could manage to like keep it simple, which actually makes it more impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful, simple landscape. Let me just do a quick little demo here. See if I can get my
Want to get me off the screen so we can see you.
um, what I saw is that you had there were some trees that were in the foreground, right? So these are trees in the foreground, and then there are trees kind of going, into the background, and they're going to get smaller as you kind of go back and say, and put another little tree here, some little tree friends. Um, and that whole business is backlit. So if I have, let's see, where's my paint? There's some paint. You had, there were some trees that were turning color. There were some trees that were green. There were some trees that were yellow. Some more turning color over here. Um, so we started off with just a little bit of variation in the color. Now I'm going to, this is not fancy watercolor paper, so it's sort of making some odd little dark spots. Let me just dry this real quick. That'll be close enough. Um, and then you were brave enough to come by with a um, got some darker paint here. Test it. Um, if I'm then painting inside this tree here, this tree gets to be dark. This tree gets to be dark. Um, this tree here, I'm going to put some dark in here. So I'm putting some dark in my front trees. And then the sunlight is coming from behind, and it is lighting up the uh, the tops of these trees, which means as I draw the next tree that is back here, what I'm going to do is as I come down, I'm going to leave a little edge. I'm not going to kind of go all the way into this. Then there's another tree that is back here, and its edge is it's going to come and not touch that either, right? And I've got another tree that's back here. And so I'm going to just start to work my way back. Oops, I lost the top of that tree there. A little bit too hasty. So what I'm doing is I'm carving the top edge of the closer tree with the lower side of the um, the tree that is behind it. So the tree that's behind is going to carve the top edge of this one. And uh, if I let some of that darkness also get a little bit darker towards the bottom of some of those trees, that can also help. Tuck the bottom of that in. The ones that are in the very front here, I might want to just get those a little bit darker. And what I'll end up with is the sort of idea that there is light that is coming from in front of you, and it is lighting up these. So the trees themselves are backlit. And that's something that you see a lot, and that might be kind of an approach to. I don't know if that was exactly the approach that you took to drawing those, but that gives us kind of this sense of um, that sort of sense of depth in there. Um, Susan, could we take a look at that sketch again?
Yeah, if I can find it again. Um,
Let's see. We're
yeah.
gonna.
And yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I did that one, but I think that is pretty much what it was. And I did more or less something similar with the bushes in the foreground, where I got something light, and I wanted them to really be very light because I was having a lot of like bright light shine on there, and then some darkness inside. So yeah, and then I think that's more or less what I did with these trees in the background.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that light edge on your foreground bushes
mhm.
is absolute gold.
Well, and it's more or less gold, isn't it? Yeah. I was noticing how as you were filling this in, and once you got enough of those shadows in, all of a sudden it like resolves into this forest. And I was starting to squint, because like it was automatically making me like, oh, this the light is shining into my eyes, and of course it's just my computer screen, but it gives it like it's kind of amazing how it like flips that switch and it gives you that immediate impression. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, um, that
Just one other thing on this sketch that Susan's holding up. Folks, notice how the foreground there, detail, 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 detail. That middle ground, we've got those lumps of the trees, and then that background, no detail at all, right? Just a shape. So that also really
actually
helps
trying
that.
to drive that into my own brain here because I don't know if I managed that.
Yeah. Another thing, the warm yellow green in the foreground, we're not seeing so much in the background. It's more of a blue-green back there. That, as you're looking in a humid environment, you don't get those yellows really popping in the foreground. There's a blue shift as you go back into the picture plane. So, successful depth wrangling there, Susan.
Thank you. Now you're making me think I should compare to like what I was looking at in the Sierra or when I go to Colorado because it's much drier and out here it is more humid and we
Yeah.
do very much get the atmospheric perspective
Yeah.
very strongly. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, Mary's pointing out that yeah, that sort of a la our buddy Leonardo, sort of
mm,
having that blue shift as you go back and things getting pale
mm,
and blue shift.
mhm.
Love it.
Yeah, and it's very certainly very pronounced here in New York where it is so humid. We get a lot of that. Yeah. So, well, thanks.
Hey, that's really fun. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks.
Hello there.
Hello. So yeah, and just a small observation because I choose a sketchbook that is too small. It's A6. It's a handmade cappuccino A6. So I'm having troubles to keep my journal uh, in small pages. So I need to choose what I'm going to add. So I saw this eat uh, ant eaters, right? With
Yes.
baby. But I wasn't able to write something about it because I don't have space enough. So, and I saw beautiful birds and many things, but I need to, to find and space to
Oh,
put
that's
the
fun to
thing.
zoom in on that bird. Oh gosh. Yeah.
So it's just an observation about the when you choose what you are going to use the materials, you need to pay attention to the what you have and what you want to report because it's been very hard to choose.
Yeah. Something that I might think about that is that there is no perfect nature journal, right? Um, when you want something that is really small, the really small ones are great. Sometimes then you were thinking like, I need a bigger page. Um,
Yeah,
I usually encourage people to bring the journal that is as large as they will realistically regularly bring with them.
yeah.
And um, if that ends up being a small one, then that is the perfect journal. Um,
And
because it's always the journal you have is always better than the journal you don't have.
yes, but Marley was with me, Marley Pfeiffer, and
Hmm.
he had one that was, I think it was A4 size. So he was able to hold it and to draw, and it was something really cool because I was not able to do that with the small one.
Yes. Yeah. With a journal this size, I end up doing a lot of journaling where I'll take my journal and I'll just wrap my hand around the top of it like that. And then I can
Exactly.
press it into my chest, and that makes a really solid drawing surface. If I've
This
got something that I have to hold it in my hand like that, it's much more than like on my knee and it's wobbly. And
exactly.
yeah, that is a It is interesting when you are standing journaling, sometimes a larger size one that you can kind of hold into you is logistically easier.
Yes, and the weather was really wet, and we were unable to use the ground to,
You
you know,
can't
to
sit down.
yeah, to sit down or to put our bag and things, supplies there because it was too wet. So yeah, so we need to think about and choose better the materials.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to, so what is a good system for who you are, how you like to sit or stand, the environment that you're in? It just sort of reminds me of when I was first taking emergency medicine classes. I was taking this course on to become an emergency medical technician. And the we were talking about first aid kits. So for your personal first aid kit, what should you have in the perfect first aid kit? And the instructor was saying that there is no such thing. It's going to be different for depending on what your preferences are and your skills are. It is going to be different depending on what environment you're going into. And said, so they said, don't have sort of a generic first aid kit that you bring everywhere. You'd want to pack your first aid kit specifically for the trip that you're going on. And I think the same is true of the nature journal. But you got to see the anteaters with a baby. That is so cool. Tell us a little bit about that experience. Hold on. We need to allow you to unmute. Okay, now you can unmute. There we go.
Yes, it was about 6 p.m. We were arriving in a national, a state park, and I thought it was another animal. Let me see if I find the name here in English name for that. Let's see, tapir. Is that
Yep.
okay? Yeah.
Yep.
So I thought it was a tapir because of the dark of the shoulder, and it surprised everybody that we were just arriving, so at the car, inside the car, and we saw the small baby following the mother. It was really amazing, and they just got scared with the car noise, and they entered the forest, and it was too dark, and they start to shout to each other, to vocalize and make
Oh,
sounds, calling each other because I think they missed it for 1 or 2 seconds, trying to figure out where they were because of
that's
the
incredible.
hush. It was incredible, yeah. And we notified the park guides because it was they didn't know they had a baby there, so it was the first time someone reported the baby, so it was really cool.
That is really cool. What a wonderful experience. That is
Yeah,
so special.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I also like the way you kind of you're drawing you're using the zoom in, zoom out really effectively. Like here's this little dark shape up in the tree. Here's a closer look at that bird. Uh, yep. Oh, wonderful. Oh, thank you so much for that. Let's bring Andy in on the conversation. Hey there, Andy. You can now unmute.
Okay. This is just in reference. I'm sorry I'm so bleached out. I don't know why this is happening. But I know I've struggled in the past with regards to the size of journals. Um, and no matter which one I got, it didn't seem to be the right size. So I just got so sick of it and I decided to start making my own journals.
Ah,
So
what size do you now like to use?
um Well, it depends on my mood, actually.
There we go.
Uh, but like I made a small one, then this fits in my purse. I'm sorry about the bleaching.
Oh, it's
Um,
okay.
does anybody know why this is happening? I don't
Um,
know.
it might be if you go to your video settings where it says video down on the bottom of your page, there's a little
Okay.
caret up. You go to the video settings. It is possible that you have a filter of some sort on. Um,
Okay, that wasn't it.
so,
Hmm.
or a cool filter.
Well, anyway, I'll just do my best.
Ah,
But this is a. I'm really sorry. But no, it's not the side light from a window because I have my blinds. Um, but anyway, so I made this one, and then when I was going to the art store and I was looking at different journals, and I was checking out tone journals, tone paper journals,
yeah.
and I didn't want one that was all tone paper, so I made another one, and it actually includes like white paper, and then I just stuck brown tone paper and gray tone paper
Oh, that's
in
great.
there as well. And so, and I did that because I wanted to push myself to use tone paper and the gouache more.
Yeah.
So I
And you don't have to go like from the front to the back. So you can, when you want to use the brown paper, just jump to the brown paper, and you want to use the gray paper, jump to the gray paper.
listen, I'm having a hard enough time using one journal for everything. The jumping around thing, I'm not there yet.
Okay, okay.
But I just wanted to, let people know that that is an alternative, and you can find videos online on how to make your own books. And the ones that I make, um, they actually are like almost like seamed. They're seamed journals, and to keep it together, I use PVC glue, but then I also use electrician's tape for
Ah,
the binding. So
very
it
practical.
doesn't have to be pretty. Just use
But
the
you've got full functionality.
and that's all I need.
That's
So
great.
just a suggestion.
That's really cool. Andy, thank you for sharing that. Um, so yeah, I agree, Rochelle. There's no perfect journal, but I find the small ones are hard for my fingers to use. I sometimes like my gross motor skills want to do something. Um, and I'm going to bring Susan back into the conversation. Hey there. Oh, now you can unmute.
Excellent. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of just like emphasize something Andy said. Doesn't have to be pretty, which I think is often kind of something that we kind of tell ourselves about our nature journaling in general. But I do think is I like to make my own books, and I like to make them pretty, and I like to make them so pristine and so nice, and I cut the papers, and then I have this nice pristine book, and it's really hard to put the first thing on the first page and mess it up. And so I do think I like this sort of approach of like let's just deliberately make a book, has some electrical tape, it's held together. You know what? It's just a bunch of paper put together in a convenient way so that you can go out and go look at nature, because that is the important thing. And that if you will take it with you and go look at nature and not be afraid to put things in your book, and if it's light enough for you to carry around with you and comfortable enough for you to use, and if it's not like, yeah, maybe I was saying precious sketchbook syndrome or PSS, yeah, is
Yes.
dangerous. So I do like this, and maybe I'll do that next time. Is I'll just like kind of slap some tape together on it to make it kind of look a bit of a mess, so that I'm not afraid to make it more of a mess, because I definitely have that issue where I just like it looks so pretty, I don't want to unprettify it. After a while, the pages get all wrinkled, like you said, and then I'm kind of more okay with like just like letting it get more wrinkled and dropping it in the dirt once in a while. But at first, I'm like, can't. So I'm big fan of book that is the size that you will use, even if it's small,
Mhm.
and book that is ugly so that you will actually use it and do things for it and use it as a tool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you get for some people, if they get a series of drawings in a row that kind of came out as pretty pictures, you start this expectation with yourself, like, I got to make the next one a pretty picture. And you can, if you find yourself kind of intimidated by making marks because a couple of drawings in a row have worked, then just intentionally go in there, do something loose, do some gesture sketches, just kind of as long as you are using the journal regularly, it's going to be useful. But if it becomes in any way precious, then we tend to use it less. And you just want to kind of shake up that Etch-a-Sketch to kind of let yourself make those marks. I'm going to bring Leslie in on the conversation. Hey there, Leslie. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi there. I just wanted to share from like a beginner's perspective because, I've been an artist in other ways, like photography and things like that, graphic design. But so the nature journaling is a little bit newer for me. Probably the last, I started a couple years ago with our homeschool group, but then we weren't always getting to it. And with young kids, they're growing. But I started where sometimes the approach that I can manage is taking pictures while we're on the trail. And then now I'm starting to like come home and really spend more time to do that because like in the woods, we don't always have like the time and the patience and enough snacks to keep everybody happy. Anyway, so a very beginners type book. This is a journal from Five Below. It's like $5. And I did get myself some nicer, like a watercolor hardbound and things like that. But I'm like, I'm going to make myself finish this one. Because I kind of like the texture. It's really great with pencil. So this was an old one that I did 2 years ago. We had a spring paper frog in our backyard, and I just, messed around with it and then wrote a bunch. And then there's not even very much in this book. This was just like a leaf rubbing. Then this one I got a little more serious this year. This was what's it called? A yellow lady slipper orchid.
Oh, I have orchid envy. Oh, look at that.
This was in May, and I'm in Michigan, kind of like Southeast Michigan area. And I was just so like fangirling over the fact that because I've been doing this trail for years and I had never spotted it like I did this year. And this is the page in the comments earlier. I said I did this this is pencil, but I did watercolor background. It got so wrinkly that I took a quilting iron and I put this page to make it. But I was proud of that drawing, and just what I did with it. And so, and then this was in June this year. This was a multiflora rose. And so, I'm trying to put in the pencil miles. I'm trying to get better with the sketching, and I'm enjoying it. And like, my material, this was like this, I forget what it's called. I haven't written down the name yet, but it's this kind of wasp that it was in the siding in this window. It went into this hole and it had this 3-inch long tail.
Oh, wow.
I'm not even done sketching it yet. It's still missing some legs, but I'm starting to just, work my way through perspective. A lot of it, the perspective and proportions is what I struggle with. So that's this year. And then I forgot my nature journal. I go to Al-Anon, which is where you have like, when you're dealing with family, you have families or friends who have been addicts or dysfunction, alcoholics and stuff. So what I started was 2 times a month in my Al-Anon group, and this Saturday is one of them, where now I'm hosting a nature journaling workshop after our Al-Anon meeting.
Oh, wow.
And so it's really great. So I forgot my journal that day. This was just a piece of paper of trillium flower. And so then I came home and glued it in. But I'm really excited.
And I like the way that that trillium flower climbs off the page there.
Yeah. Yeah, because the page.
That's really fun.
And I was just kind of running with it. We were harvesting mosquito larvae from different puddles in the yard to feed to our puffer fish, because we have pea puffers. And it was just really fun. We were trying to decide, okay, well, there was a puddle here and there was a puddle here and a puddle here. And why did we only find mosquitoes in one of the 5 puddles?
Yeah.
Like what was in that one? So then we tried starting, okay, that one had more organic material. And then we tried starting to harvest more of them, because then it's really fun to feed them to our little puffer fish. This was like a dog got a nest of baby bunnies. She was in the grass and she came out with a mouthful of newborn baby bunnies. One of them lived. And so I'm not done with this yet. This was a baby bunny that we put underneath the pine tree in the front yard away from the dog. And it did disappear. So we hope that the mom found the baby and took it to raise it.
Oh.
Because this paper is so thin, you know, this is like a plastic 50-cent pocket folder.
Yeah.
I got at Target, and we always have them because we're homeschoolers. I cut one, and this is like an insert that I always have behind my working page.
Oh, what a good idea.
Oh, because my pages are not super thick. So it helps with like, because I'm also a stickler for like when you're writing, presses through. So it keeps that from happening. Also helps with watercolor, but it's really thin. This was just
That's smart. That's what, tell us about this.
for healing. We have all kinds of like autoimmune and all kinds of issues. So for healing, we started doing celery juicing. I've been doing celery juice every day for a few weeks. And when I'm cutting the ends of the celery off, you know, it looks like a rose.
Yeah.
When you cut the base of a stalk. So me and my girls, we put them out in the sun to dry out a bit so that they would have more defined spaces. And then we did stamping with celery. And then here is where I'm documenting our celery juicing healing journey of like, you know, what it's like, how we're slowly increasing our dose and how we're feeling over time. So it's like,
that is joyful. That's just, it's a celery abrasion.
yeah. And so I'm really trying to, I was a stickler about, like we were talking about the precious journal syndrome. That's huge for me. And also, and I think the next page is this is just notes from today. So I don't even have a whole lot in here, but the precious journal thing is so strong. And then even me being like, does this belong in the nature journal, the celery? But it's like, well, it's my journal and it can be what I need it to be. And
Right.
I'm healing with nature with celery. So yeah, it's in the nature journal.
Yes, it's in the nature journal. You know, can I put in my daughters on a merry-go-round? It's my journal. I get to decide.
So that's where I'm at in my process and learning. And I'm doing the nature journaling educator learning program. And so really having a lot of fun, just really delving into it. It's bringing me so much joy. And I think I got to look more into the stewardship part of it, but I'm hoping that with my Al-Anon group, that might be something that works for the stewardship thing, because so many people are telling me how much this is helping them. There's a woman in there where her separated husband died up in Upper Michigan, and because she stayed and started the journaling workshop with us, he died in a house fire. He was still, I think, like an active alcoholic. I don't know, but there was a lot going on there. And she's like, you know what? She's in her 70s. And she's like, oh, you know, I kind of used to do art. I'm like, there's no kind of used to. She's like, I've got some art supplies. I said, you're an artist. You just are. If you're going to say that, you are an artist. And
kind of used to.
Yeah. And so I'm really approaching this with like, it's like creative therapy and how it's helping people. And so she has to keep traveling a few hours up north to go deal with the house now that he's gone. And she told me she's bringing her art supplies and coming with her. And at the very first day when I talked about it and said, you know, I think I might start offering this, I wasn't planning on it being in Al-Anon. But then the people were saying, will you do it with us? Practice on us. We'll do it. And I was like, oh. And then a few days later, I was at an art store. I was at Michael's and ran into somebody who, it was her first day at Al-Anon. She had never come before. She was really tender, really like a newbie, whatever. And we ran into each other at the art store, and she was there buying art supplies because of what I said. And now she's in a hard place with her life stuff, and she's going back, another person connecting back to art to help her through this time. And I'm like, this is why, this is everything.
You know, I want to encourage you just to keep some notes and document your experience doing this with that group. I'd love to invite you, if you find you've got some interesting things that you observe, to join us for one of our Wednesday Nature Journal Educator workshops or forum discussions to talk about your experience doing this. I wonder if this is something that people who are connected with other Al-Anon groups might be. You are pioneering some new territory here, and I think that could really help a lot of other people.
I think so. I mean, it feels like, it literally just feels like a lightning bolt, just like, wow, this is, because I'm a homeschooler. I kind of assumed, okay, yeah, I'll offer this to homeschool groups or something, but I wasn't feeling very lit up about that. I was like, okay, yeah, I do lots of stuff with homeschool. And I'm like, oh no, this is why I'm supposed to be doing it. And so, cool.
As you are exploring this, if there's any other way that I can be of support or help to you in doing this, please reach out to me.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
This is I think this is a new and brilliant application of nature journaling. And I would be very excited to see how this grows.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad I brought your books. You know, there's times where I have like a stack of library books just to help people kind of get started and flip through and get inspired. And I think initially people that are drawn to it are people who have that inner artist. Oh, I used to draw, or I used to do things back when I was whatever. So my challenge, I think, will be how do you get the people to
Yeah.
stay after the meeting who aren't necessarily drawn to artistic stuff or who are intimidated by artistic things. And I'm hoping it's just if I just keep showing up. If I
Yeah.
just keep going up and the group keeps talking about it and maybe word of mouth, people will give it a try.
That is really, really, really interesting. I would love to see how this grows.
Mhm.
Um, so uh, thank you. I'd like to bring Avea in on the conversation, and also I see Preeti has a hand raised. Um, but Leslie, please reach out to me if I can be any support to this, and also I would love to do the follow up on this.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Avea, was this a good time to share? Preeti, why don't we bounce over to you if that's okay? I'm going to add you into the spotlight here. And you can now unmute. Hi there.
Hi, I mean, this is my first time joining the class, and I'm actually from India, and I'm
Oh,
staying in India.
oh,
Yeah,
and you're having to be rather quiet because you don't want to wake other people up in the house right now?
no, no, it's okay.
Okay.
It's appropriate time, but I found the nature journaling club through Instagram, and today I just opted to, join the class, and I'm really excited because I've been into nature art for some time, but I'm still trying to develop my skills. So I'm happy to, learn from the class today and to see other people's work.
It is so much fun to connect with other
Mhm.
people and see that the way that other people are approaching these things. And Preeti, I'm delighted that you are joining us today. Welcome. It's great to have you here.
Yeah,
Do you feel like if you feel like sharing some of your work, you are invited to do so. If that doesn't feel comfortable at this time, that's totally okay. Um,
yeah. Mhm. I will share some of my work next time when I
great,
join. Yeah, through a journal. Yeah.
great. Yep. So we're going to be here every week,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
as Andy's saying in the chat, welcome, welcome. We're just delighted that you're here. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. Oh, that's great. It's so much fun to meet new nature journalers. Um, on behalf of Avea and myself, we are delighted that all of you have chosen to be with us again. It is really, really good to see you. So if you're an old timer, welcome back. If you're new to this, we're delighted that you're here. Again, Preeti, we're so happy that you can be with us. And we're going to be taking a look at that list of suggestions, and we'll be developing classes to meet your needs and help you with your nature journaling. I'm also going to be doing a little bit more of um, a look behind the scenes in this current nature journal and continue a little page flip. Would love to bring you to Greece with me, and we'll take a look there and then see what else we can discover. Um, until we meet again, everybody. It is a world that is largely unknown. Through science, we've been able to figure out a couple little things about the way that this world works, but it's mostly this big, beautiful mystery. And I want to encourage people to be curious, ask questions, observe, and play with your nature journal. Don't worry about it having to be a pretty picture. Don't worry about having to do it right. Um, let your nature journal be a tool that invites you into a deeper exploration with the natural world around you, and have fun. So until we meet again, be kind, and I will see you soon. Bye bye, my friends.